This is the question from our newsroom, which is largely informed by the text of the editor that I get on a daily basis from readers. The council is often criticised for spending money on nice-to-haves with an argument that it should stick to core services, or stick to its knitting with water, roads, rubbish, reserves. What responsibility, if any, does the council have to foster community and culture in our city?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I was on that side so I could reflect on it for 20 minutes. In seriousness, council has a very strong role to play in that space. It sits in the Local Government Act that talks about the 4 well-beings. But I think you walk outside your door and you think about what really makes a community work. And it is more than pipes and roads and waste services and water coming out of the tap and those sort of things. It is about fostering connections in communities, and it's about making sure that communities, especially a community like this that has a very strong immigrant base, really can gel together and work together well. Again, I come from the States. I've seen communities fall apart from a lack of social capital, and if anything, I'd say that I'm a social capitalist, and I want to make sure that social capital is grown in this city.
Thank you. When we had the Christchurch earthquakes, there was a huge community response. When we have times of trouble, when disaster strikes us, it is community that pulls together, and it's community response that makes us feel supported. Sure, we get support from local government and we get support from central government, but it's the community, it's the student armies, it's the people in the neighbourhood looking after each other that show up. Are we in for times of trouble in the future? Yes. People in Nelson are having times of trouble right now. It's the community that is building that. So I think council absolutely has a role to play in making sure we have strong communities to be able to respond resiliently to the change that we are expecting. Additionally, community is one of the 5 social indicators of crime. We're experiencing crime in Palmerston North at the moment. If we are able to really get to the heart of that issue and build social community, maybe we'd be experiencing less crime. Thank you.
Palmerston North has 137 cultures, 123 languages. None of it is reflected in our policy, strategic planning or long-term planning. We've got a long way to go. Council needs to reflect and mirror our community.
Thank you. That was a loaded question. Can you please repeat this? Sorry.
Not a problem. The council is often criticised for spending money on nice-to-haves with an argument it should stick to core services: water, roads, rubbish, reserves. What responsibility, if any, does the council have to foster community and culture in our city?
Thanks for that. Well, as we know right now, the role of local government is changing. Right now we have the review for the future of local government, and a lot of it as well is pushing council towards the social and the 4 well-beings, which is social, economic, cultural, and also environmental well-being. So we're going to see the role of council really much expanding. What we should be doing is lobbying local central government to provide funding instead of them pushing and shoving projects and stuff down to us with no funding. What we've been having is inheriting central government responsibilities without funding. So that's what we should be doing, advocating and lobbying central government to provide more funding so that we can meet our obligations under the Local Government Act 2002, which is the 4 well-being of social, economic, environmental well-being as well. So that's what we should be doing at the moment, given that the role of council is expanding at the moment with the reviews that are happening at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not a social scientist, so I don't have any flash definitions for community and social funding and those things. But the thing I know, all the services you have described are for the people, and people form a community. So as long as you are working with the community, you are working properly with these facilities as well. So look at the ever-growing Festival of Cultures in Palmerston North. Look at the Diwali festival, look at the Eid festival. All these things bring the community together, and then a better understanding for all the other facilities. Thank you.
Rows and rubbish and rats and all those things, yes, they're important. But you know, what would happen if we just concentrated on those and forgot about the rest, the community? Funny thing, the other things are there to serve the community. The community comes first. Can you imagine what would happen in this city if every community group went on strike? What would we do? It would bring the city to a standstill. The community is the centre of the city, not the other assets. The biggest asset we have are you, the people, and they have got to be looked after first, not second or third. The people are the reason the city is here, not the roads, the people.
Thank you for the question. I promise I didn't send it in. It's true to say that council gets criticised, but I think what we'd find is council gets criticised whatever council does, so that's just par for the course. But to the question of is there a role for council in community and culture, well, of course there is, and I agree with lots of the comments that have been shared already. You know, part of my vision for the city, and one that I've worked hard on in council, is about being connected and safe and creative. And the reason that's important is because when people are seen, when their stories are heard, then we understand each other better, and this is a better place to live and a safer, more prosperous and thriving place to live. We should always be investing in our people.
Kia ora for the question. We definitely have, in fact, more than a responsibility. We have an obligation to look after cultural, social, environmental and economic well-being, because they are specified in the Local Government Act. And I think that even if they weren't specified, our community expects us to do those things. So every year we consult on our annual budget, and every 3 years we consult on our 10-year plan. And without fail, the community asks us to look after social, environmental and cultural well-being. And so my view is that as a council we need to be responsive to what you, the people, are asking us to do. And if we're being asked to do these things, then it's important that we listen and do them. If we don't have a directive from the community about what is needed, then we wouldn't be doing it. So we're simply doing what we've been asked to do. Thank you.
Kia ora. I absolutely believe that council has a responsibility to community and culture. In fact, I think community and culture is one of our core services. In terms of all of our core services, we need to be mindful of how we invest and get best value for every ratepayer dollar, and we can't just do everything. So we have to be mindful about what we do and how much we spend in all of our core services, including community and culture.
Thank you for the question. Absolutely, council has a role to play in growing and supporting our community, and I'm proud to have been a part of it as a member of the council's Creative Communities scheme and the Youth Council organising community events. But what we can't do is this at the expense of our essential services and priorities. When we're having reports of wastewater leaking into stormwater, when we have potholes on Vogel Street that are almost a part of the landmarks of the city, we have to go through our budget and look at, for example, a community fund that may have got $100,000 last year. Did we get $100,000 of value out of that project, or did we only get 75? Could we take that 25 grand and use it better to provide for our essential services, or use it to keep rates down? I am not a candidate that is coming in to cut community programs. What I am coming in to do is making sure we're getting value for money, and that we are making sure that all of our spending is being put towards good value projects.
Thanks for the question. It's about a balance. It's exactly what my colleague just said. It's about balancing the books and making sure that we can actually try and afford everything. But it's also what Councillor Johnson said too. It's about going back to the community and asking them what they want. And so it's going back and doing consultation, because I think consultation is really important, asking the whole community what they want and putting it out for consultation. But it is about a balance. It's about asking what you want for that and seeing if the pie is big enough to afford it, because we can't have everything. Otherwise the rates will be too high. And we don't want too high rates, otherwise we won't get everything.
There's actually two parts to that question and three parts to the answer. The first part of the question is criticism for spending money on things you shouldn't spend money on. What you don't know is I used to be the regional operations manager for Asia Pacific, so I ran every Asian country out of Singapore. I'm used to running countries. Palmerston North, you need a dashboard. You need a public dashboard that says this is where all the money's coming and that's where it's all going. So you, who pay for everything, can see where all that is and have a say on it right there in a one view. That's what we do in corporate overseas. Simple, dashboard. So no, they're not spending money on the things that we want them to spend them on. So they're being fiscally irresponsible, and I'm sure Mike will pick up on that. The second part of the question is how do you build community and culture? It's very, very simple. We're all part of a community. Palmerston North is not one community. We're all segregated into suburbs and different groups. So we don't have a Palmerston North community across the board. To build community, you have to go to the leaders of each of those communities, create a space where they self-identify, work for a leader in that community in their own language, and take it from them and give them what they want. And the third part of that is you have to listen to the next generation. Our youth know what they want for the future.
Thank you for the question. Yes, Council does have a responsibility. And coming as an immigrant, and I think being a part of a different group, we all need to be involved and be a part of the community. And I think a lot of people do feel isolated. And obviously we need to make them feel welcome into the city. This is their home. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have money involved, but make them, you know, we can always be a part of it, we can provide support, and we can take it from there. As Dion said, we need to find out what they need and how we can support them further, but not only go and approach them when elections are closer and then get their votes, that's about it, but we need to be there for them and be supportive as we go along.
Yep, I definitely do believe the council has a role in developing community. It's up to the council, I believe, to provide the resources to allow people, as individuals, from the individual level, to be all they can be on their own terms. Develop their own inner confidence from within and not rely on approval from others, which will eliminate things or bring things down like suicide and unhappiness. We need to teach our people to find ways to belong in constructive and promising ways that will be encouraging and encourage unity between us all. If we all work to help each other, we will have harmony, because in unity there is strength. And when we've got all those things, we will have a very strong community. And the council, I believe, can facilitate that by providing the resources that people need to do this, like encouraging youth from a very early age, finding out what they're good at, giving them all the encouragement and opportunities so they can go ahead and be all they are, right from a young age. Teach them to be responsible from a young age, and positive ways.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like I'm going to be the contrary one. If the Palmerston North City Council disappeared tomorrow, the community of Palmerston North would still exist. The council is an enabler. It's not a creator of community. You're already it. Look to your left. Do it. Look to your left. Look at the person to your left. Look at the person to your right. You are the community of Palmerston North. The people up here, we have a job. Our job is to make sure you have the tools to get around the city. You have the roads, you have the footpaths, you have the water, you have the facilities like this. That's the council's job. We aren't here to create community. It already exists.
Culture and community. Our responsibility and ongoing commitment in that space is at the forefront. Our relationship with Rangatane, iwi local, here has never been stronger, and their leaders would reflect that. Our cultural diversity, I think we celebrate that with events and the expression of that in numerous ways, and it enriches everybody's life. As far as the pipes and the bricks and mortar, infrastructure is very important too. And one of the absolute truths that I got to appreciate when I first got elected was there's over 1.7 billion worth of assets and a growing population over 70,000. It's impossible to please everybody. So you've got to be confident in your decisions and where you're making the priorities and the investment and be able to sleep at night. And I think we do a reasonable job of that. Thank you.
Your community is your neighbour. Know your neighbour all the way around you, because they are the ones that form the community. And yes, the council has a commitment to the community and culture, but this morning, if you turned on your tap and no water came out, you wouldn't be sitting here tonight. You would all be trying to ring your plumber, or trying to ring the mayor, or trying to find out why there's no water supply. So there are key issues that have to be considered in terms of infrastructure, like water and wastewater, but at the same time, council runs a very balanced approach to making sure the community is looked after as well.
I believe the communities is the lifeblood of Palmerston North. By that I mean it is the way in which communities interact with each other that brings us closer together. But part of that is a sense of pride that we can develop, and that pride is built on by our infrastructure, about looking after the potholes in our roads, the cracked concretes, or the litter on our streets. I want to encourage that with everyone in Palmerston North. Again, it ties in with the community spirit, and in a way it retains people, keeps people in Palmerston North. I know, for instance, a lot of people that I've worked with at universities and at high schools have left Palmerston North, and I believe it could be because there's that lack of pride. Let's build on that pride in Palmerston North, because we've got so much going for us.
Thank you. This question answer on one of the points I will be fighting if I become council. It's encourage people involving resources and utilize empathy, a skill to bring a sense of social positivity and hope into our community. Thank you.
These questions, they're interesting. We represent the community. That is our job. That's why I want to run, because there's so many parts of our community that aren't being heard. In places like Highbury, Takaro, Roslyn, a lot of their community feels left out, doesn't feel like they're a part, because that's just how they feel. That's what I've heard anyway. But yeah, it's like some of the others have said, it's a balance. We've got to balance the infrastructure with the community, with the culture. I think they do a fairly good job, but I think it needs to be more voice from the people involved in the decision making in Palmerston North, maybe a town hall or something, who knows. Cheers.
I grew up in a large Māori and Pākehā, very, very extended family where every second person was auntie, until you found out later who actually auntie was. And all the aunties that told you off were actually not your aunties. But definitely when I studied at Massey social policy, I found out that a lot of groups and cultures do not have a voice. They struggle to actually be heard. Palmerston North's not one of those places. There's other towns that are much worse than us. But all these groups have aspirations and they need to be heard, and we all need to represent each other. Our wraparound services are great, and that's that arm of wrapping around you and giving you love, but we just need to do better in this community. Thank you.
I think probably the lessons to be learned here is that you want to sit through an annual budget hearing, and you'll have a whole bunch of people that'll come and tell you that that person has actually just asked for something which is a nice to have. What is my nice to have is not your nice to have. So we always have this tension that's always running. If I could just go back to my experience as the police area commander here, we had the lowest crime rate in our city of all time. And how did we get there? We got there through partnerships. And those partnerships invested in social capital, which promoted social cohesion. So we need to invest in things that support more resilient communities, which sometimes might seem like a nice to have. We need to invest in pipes and things like that, but we also need to invest in people.
Thank you. Yeah,
It's been quite nice, certainly a very long time, 20 minutes. The new political aspirations, and me just want to say, like, I agree with all the good stuff that they've said. Putting my hand up for a very thankless job. There's a lot of people sitting in this room at the moment that have put a huge amount of effort in. And yep, they've probably done 20 or 30 good things for our community, but the community just is going to focus on those couple that they've done wrong. As you said, it's your priorities and your beliefs will change across what everyone is feeling. And I think that's why we have those different views through our minority groups as well. So thank you to our candidates for what you have done. Absolutely, we have a huge responsibility to see those aspects. Can I just get a quick show of hands? Who hasn't walked across the new bridge? Okay, so that's half a dozen people haven't walked across the new bridge. I would have been the first one to vote that down. I thought it was a huge amount of money for a walkway bridge that wasn't needed. A very good example of an amazing asset that the community has certainly made the most of.
Thank you, James. Can I just have the microphone?